Hey everybody, it's Pastor Dana Live. Now listen, this is a disclaimer. That's crooked. Um, this is a disclaimer. Just turn the phone. No, the phone. Just turn it that way. Just the phone. No, just take the top of the phone and just turn it. Yes, because it's on a ball, so it rolls. Sorry about that, guys. All right. Sorry about that. Hold on, y'all. All right, I'm back. And we was crooked. Hey, baby, you in California? And be careful in Cali. Be careful in Cali. All right, so hey, everybody. If I squint, I don't know where my glasses are. I can't find them. They're between. I hope I didn't drop them outside when I went to go see one of my students yesterday. So I can't find my glasses. So if I start squinting, then you all pray for me. Pray that my eyes, pray that my eyes is good. So you all know that today is Takeaway Tuesday with Dr. Will. And we're waiting for him to come. Hey, baby, I see you're back on. We're waiting for him to come back. No, we're waiting for him to get here. Not come back. We're waiting for him to get here. Oh, you're at a medical conference. Absolutely excellent. My sister, those of you who see Lisa, Lisa Pollard, she just got her license, I believe, state something or another in the medical field. Let me just say that. So I'm excited for her and grateful to the Lord for what he's doing in her life. So she's in California at a medical conference. God bless you. Some folks can handle certain things and some can't. So that whole medical thing, some of us got that, some of us don't have it. All right, so, but we're grateful to the Lord for what he is doing in her life. I'm about to burn up. I'm hot. I don't know why I'm hot right about now, but it's all good. So today I want to talk about, because I had a conversation, I had several conversations today. Today I want to talk about values. And again, we have been probably dealing with and talking about personal development, spiritual and personal development. We've been dealing with a lot of that stuff lately. And when you're talking about values, so let me just give you, although we all should know what values are, but I'm gonna give you a definition. Values are, values mean consider to be important, beneficial, or consider someone or something to be important, beneficial, to have a high opinion of. A person's principles or standards of behavior, one's judgment of what is important in life. That is values. That's what values are. And so I want to read something to you, as I am always studying and reading certain things. It is always good for us to make sure that we know what our values are, to make sure, hey, everybody, hey, Meek, to make sure that we know what our values are, to make sure that we are always adhering to the standard that has been lifted up before us, Number one, by God. Number two, by our parents, what we learned. You know, they have instilled some values within us. So we ought not to get away from those things. Even as we grow, they ought to grow with us, right? So we shouldn't get away from those things. But I want to read this to you. The first step in effective leadership is defining core values. And although I believe this is talking about leadership, personal development, and core values, but all of it's because we are all leaders. We're all leaders in our own right. If you lead your own life, then you are a leader. Amen. The first step in effective leadership is defining core values. Until that is done, the ship in leader is trying to steer with no rudder. Did y'all get that? Vision, mission, strategy, and outcomes are difficult, if not impossible, to define until values are clear. So in your life, until you have established what your core values are, until you have established that, some things in your life will be hard to steer, to get on track, because you haven't established that. It's for me, it's almost like someone who is put in what is the movie? Trading Places, I think. Y'all remember when Eddie Murphy, when they took him out of something, took him out of his way of life and put him into this elaborate home and all that kind of stuff. His core values were not equivalent to where he was. So what he needed to do was kind of upgrade his values or upgrade his behaviors to match where he was. And he didn't get it until later on, because if y'all remember in that movie, he was stealing stuff. But this was his house, right? He was stealing stuff from himself. Until somebody was like, yo, this is who you are now. This is where you are now. So you gotta upgrade. So sometimes we need to upgrade the stuff that our parents have instilled and taught us. Sometimes we gotta upgrade. We gotta upgrade. But again, it will be difficult to kind of steer and to navigate what we need to navigate in life if we do not establish some core values, right? Some core values. Jesus knew that early in the process of developing his team of disciples, he forced them to confront this fundamental issue. Matthew records Jesus on Matthew 6:1-34. I'm not going to read all that. Matthew records Jesus' primer on values. Jesus focused his lesson in verses 19-21. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. Verses 19-20. Your heart, focus, attention, affection, resources will center on your treasure, right? What you supremely value. Verse 21. What you supremely value. What is it? Lord have mercy. Sometimes things that we put our treasure in are not really what we need to value. Let me say that one more time. Sometimes where we place our importance, our time, our energy, is really not what we need to place it in, because there's no value there. Let me go here. Relationships that are a waste of time. Don't put too much stock I said this to myself. I said this actually last week. I said I'm going to evaluate my contact list. I'm going to evaluate my contact list. I'm going to evaluate my friends list on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. I'm going to evaluate. I'm going to go through and I'm going to look through. Some people you ought not to take into 2019 with you. There's no value in you wasting your time on people who don't want to go where you're going. Sometimes, now listen, you gotta know who and what that is, because there are some things, but you gotta know who and what it is, and then you gotta make the adjustment. I'm gonna leave it there. Jesus urged his disciples to focus their values on things that would bear an eternal return. Eternal return. Who and what in your life is going to bear an eternal return? But now, while making a living on earth, while responsibly leading an enterprise on earth, while providing jobs, product, service, profit on earth, do we build treasure in heaven? Wow. What the scripture that comes to mind? So when we're talking about this development, what doth it profit a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul? See, I can have a lot of things, right, that really doesn't have the kind of personal value that I need to add to my life. Because sometimes things don't do that. Can you grab, I knew I was missing something. Can you grab off the printer for me? I have printed out some stuff. My brain is going to what I was reading on the paper. Let me finish reading this. It says, this passage presents the core of the value, or the crux of the value question. Read 6, and let me go to Matthew 6:1. Hold on, y'all. Matthew. Matthew 6:1. Let me go. It says, thank you so much. It says this. It says, take heed that you do not do your charitable deeds before men to be seen by them. Otherwise, you have no reward from your Father in heaven. God and I, hey, come on and sit down.
Hey, lad.
My brother is
no
here.
Reward.
My brother is here. So let me, okay, we're going to go back, because let me put this to the side right quick. So we can't, no, I need your input.
I like to jump in the rhythm.
Come on, jump in it, because it is flowing. That talks about value too. Because let me tell you something, I'm not jumping in nobody's river that I don't value.
That's right, jumping those valueless rivers. So valueless rivers.
No, seriously, which means that I'm not wasting my time on folks and or things that's not going where I'm going. Right. Not only that, you know, I want to be. I said this the other day. I had to preach that I want to stop with the big dogs.
You want to what with them?
Stomp. With the big dogs.
Stop with them.
No, I want to stop with the big dogs.
Okay.
Meaning I want to.
Hey, everybody.
There are people who have gone and done the things that I want to do.
Okay.
They carry with them a core set of values,
Yes.
behaviors.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
They are an example.
Yes.
That's who I want to be connected to.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I want to be around those people. So
Okay.
when you said about jumping in the river,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna jump in their river.
Good job in neighborhood.
Right. So
Okay.
so I was defining core values. Of course, you know, it changes with the when it's hot and cold. Can you this is live.
I'm focused. I know we said
I know.
5:30. Let's go.
Well,
Burn
you
it
here
up, burn it
now.
up,
You
burn
here
it
now. But core values, I
Let's
gave an example or a definition
Yes.
of core values.
Yeah.
Core values are the fundamental beliefs
of
of a person or organization.
Yes.
Fundamental
Rarely.
beliefs.
Yes. You're right.
What'd
Yes.
you say?
Rarely.
Rare.
For organizations, I'm saying.
Wow. Why
Yeah.
do you say that?
'Cause
Because
it's
that's
difficult.
sad.
It's difficult for organizations.
Tell me
Yeah.
why, because my brain. So I'm about to pick your brain, but go ahead. Why do you say that for organizations?
So organizations create core values that they may post up, but the difficulty is most organizations are really driven and dictated by the culture and not by the
Dr.
core
Ward,
values.
we talked about this culture thing
Yes.
last
Yeah.
week.
It's very real though. It's very real.
Because when I think about that, when I'm thinking about organization, not just a company organization, I'm thinking about,
But companies too.
right, but I'm thinking, my mind is thinking about the church.
Churches too.
Yes.
Yes. Organizations are driven by culture. This is a difficult thing because I know we spend a lot of time in our organizations talking about core values, talking about our visions, and keeping those things out there. But the reality is what drives the characteristics of organizations is the culture. Case in point,
Yes.
right?
Case in point.
There is a written statute, probably the most prolific statutes in the entirety of human existence, that dictates what the core values of the United States of America are.
Because I've been listening to so
Right.
much stuff today.
And so every system, every institution within our government, judicial, the legislative branch, the executive branch, have a very specific set of core values that are outlined by the United States Constitution.
Right.
But the reality is, depending on the leader that's there, the culture shifts. And it can shift from leader to leader, almost to a point like we're seeing now, where
Yes.
the core values become invisible. They don't cease to exist
Right.
because the Constitution is still in place. And it is still the governing rule. It's what should be. It's the governing principle. But the culture has overrun that. And it will, every time, culture will overrun core values in any organization. It's the nature of organizations.
Is there a way, because then I want to go to something that I was listening to on CNN. Is there a way to change or to redirect, refocus that
There's a way to change culture.
so that it equals or measures up to core value?
And
Oh, I gotta write that.
the biggest thing is, and this is a great takeaway for leaders if you're listening.
Right, hold
It
on,
is
I
the-
got to write down my takeaway. Go ahead.
It's the leader's responsibility to align the culture with the values,
It's the leader's responsibility
to align culture
align
values.
culture
with values.
with values.
Hey, Elder Debbie, love you.
Hey, Elder. It is the leader's responsibility. So you didn't hear this was my opening. The first step in effective leadership is defining core values.
So yeah, that's a good.
Well, I mean, that was just
Yeah.
one thing.
No, that's good.
But the fact that you said
That's
this,
absolutely good. I would dog ear right behind that and create culture. You know, work to create culture every time. The leader's responsibility. What I say? It's
the leader's responsibility to align culture with values.
Yes. Takeaway one.
That's takeaway one. That's wonderful.
And it's interesting enough, people within the organization don't have to do anything because they are going to be culturalized. And they will become whatever the culture is, they will be that.
What is her name, spokesman for Donald Trump? What's her name?
Kellyanne
No,
Conway,
no, the child that,
the child.
the child that speaks,
That's demeaning and demonstrative.
I'm sorry,
Not a child.
the woman that speaks for him on the press conferences.
Oh,
What
yes,
is her name? I know her name.
yes.
I was just listening to her talk.
Sally, Susie.
Sally?
Sally.
No. Oh,
Let me go to this new invention they got called
not Huckabee.
Google.
Huckabee?
Yes. Yes.
Her.
Sarah.
Sarah Huckabee.
See, why was y'all laughing when I said, what was I
You
saying?
said Sally.
Sally. I knew it was one of them.
Right.
I knew it was one of them snakes.
So today,
I knew it was one of them snakes.
listening to CNN, and they were talking about, so they were coming at her with, so is the president lying?
Sure.
You know, we see all of this, you know what I mean?
Right.
Is this how the White House is run now? Is this, you know what I mean? But again,
Thank you, Taisha.
Those-
Taisha said Sarah.
thank you, Ty, those core values.
Right.
But to me, the culture, I believe that there was a culture shift
Mm-hmm. Sure.
in the White
In
House when
leadership.
he took, right,
Absolutely.
you know what I mean? Because honestly, I can go back two presidents,
Mm-hmm.
and I did not see what I am seeing now.
Right. Right.
Now I've seen some stuff.
Mm-hmm. And takeaway two.
All right, take away two, come on.
Like it or not, leaders define culture. Like it or not.
I was about to put like it or not.
Leaders define culture. And it's interesting because they do so either by assertion or by creating a vacuum.
Okay, explain
Right.
by assertion
assertion
or
is
creating a vacuum.
assertion is I'm going to be intentional about what the culture is of the organization, right? I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to lead by example. I'm going to make sure my people are trained. I'm going to make sure that's followed up with good teaching. Then I'm going to make sure it's followed with measurements, right? And then good, peer communication. Going to do all those things. That's by assertion. They assert that culture. Or create a vacuum by saying, I'm not going to do anything. And in the absence of that leadership, someone will come into that vacuum. Someone will get pulled in and will then create the culture. And then while the leader sits back and says, oh, it's not me, or I don't have nothing to do with it. That sister so-and-so did that. Oh, that's Deacon so-and-so did that.
How do we I don't know if this is the right word, but do we deprogram ourselves from not deprogram, that's not the word.
I don't know. You mean from what though?
From this type of, how do we restructure?
Leaders?
Right, and not,
To
so
be
let's,
trained.
within ourselves.
Within
So-
ourselves is difficult because, so here's one thing. If you can challenge yourself to take a look at the culture that exists in whatever group or group dynamic or organization that you're in, take a real look at the culture, right? I talk to a lot of y'all Christians. I just do. I hear a lot of Christians complain about the culture in their church. I just do. Right? So they're aware of a bad culture, a negative culture. They're aware of bad behavior, but they don't address it because they've already come to understand that behavior is acceptable in the culture. Right? The only real way to address that is to go to leadership and say, hey, there's this accepted culture in our midst of blah, 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 blah. That it's okay to talk about people. It's okay to backbite people. And I know you teach not to, but we all know it goes on. And it goes on so prevalently because it's the accepted culture.
So,
So leadership, I'm coming to you, asking, can we start to do something to change this culture?
there's so much stuff that's going on in my mind right now. Like you have like,
And that's difficult to do. I mean, it's difficult to do. I mean, we're seeing it play out on a national scale right
We
now
really
with our
are.
leadership.
we really are. It was so disheartening today for me to listen to some of the things that was being said on CNN today when the press conference and Sarah was, asking questions, but then being very evasive.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying, are you kidding me right now? My thing is,
I
why
missed it all.
did you?
Yeah.
Why do we think, or why do people think that Americans are so far removed that we don't see really what's happening? That we are, I don't want to use this word, but I don't want to use this word, but because of the African American vernacular, I want to use this word. Why do people think that we are so dumb that we can't see, beyond ourselves? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, why?
That's easy. Because we continue on in the culture.
I don't want to continue
Right.
in a culture.
Continue in the culture,
I want to change the culture.
And it's not all of our fault. It's because the culture is driven the way it is. You start asking African Americans, did you vote? You're gonna get a swing. Some people gonna say, absolutely, I wouldn't have missed it for the world. I wore the sticker for 2 days. Other people say, no, my vote don't count. Those same people, thank you, Barack Obama, those same people who say they vote don't count in the election are voting on the voice. And so you think you could dance. So they have a firmer understanding or a firmer belief that their vote counts on a television show versus their vote counts for a national election.
How do we change
And
that?
that's
Because we've talked about
Yeah,
that for some time.
yeah.
But how do we begin to change the narrative?
So the narrative is changing on a national scale. It's changing now. I mean, some of the response that we had this year in the election, the midterm elections, were very good. It gave the House back to the Democrats, which created some kind of balance in government. And the Democratic House is now going to launch investigations through the roof on a lot of things to try to bring some things to bear.
They done started.
And one of the things that switches culture is accountability. Accountability back to the core values.
Is that a
That
takeaway?
should be.
That-
That should be.
Wait a minute, say that one more time.
Yeah. One way to change culture is to have accountability to values.
To change culture, you must
Be
change.
accountable.
Oh, you must
Be accountable.
accountable. I know what that means. To
To the values.
the
Right.
values.
So,
You pass me a
so,
minute.
huh?
Pass me a minute.
So don't lie, right?
Thank you.
Don't lie is a value,
Woo!
right? The only way,
What did you say?
don't lie is
Say
a
it one more
value.
time.
Don't lie.
Listen.
Don't lie is a value, right?
Lord
So the
help
only
me.
way to change the cultural acceptance of lying right now in government is to hold liars accountable. There's no two ways about it. And leadership has to do it.
But listen, we also can take some personal development from that.
Hold yourself accountable.
Right. Because lying is saying if somebody asks you, well, what's wrong? And you say nothing,
Mm-hmm.
when in actuality,
Mm-hmm. Something
there's
wrong.
something wrong.
Right, right.
You gotta change that you gotta change even that and how you respond, because it's gonna help not only the people around you,
Mm-hmm.
but it's gonna help you later on down the line.
Yeah. Yeah. Sister Vera said the White House needs real church leaders holding him accountable to the people of this country, people who are saved for real. And there's a lot of merit that I agree with in that, Sister Vera. You know, the thing that gets missed amongst leadership in our spiritual houses and our worship centers, and not just among Christians, right, but throughout the world and body of believers and the people of faith, is the responsibility that our spiritual leaders have to integrity, to core values. You know, that we should be teaching and being advocates of strong core values. It is essential.
Right.
You know, there should not be believers who are siding with downright criminals and liars. Now somebody's gonna say all of them liars.
Right. Dr. Al, I couldn't read your message because my phone is recording on Instagram.
It's on the gram.
Sorry.
If there's something that you would say on here but didn't want to post, you can inbox me. Because we're friends on Facebook now.
Oh my God.
But yeah, Sister Vera, I completely agree there. I think our leaders need to step up. They need to be speaking to our communities, to the bodies of faith, to the people who live in the communities. These are the people who vote. These are the people that are supposed to be swaying representatives and creating change, you know?
Dr. Will, help people like me who say, I want it to change now because I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it. We've had time to make adjustments, and we make excuses. You know, help me. Let me tell you the reason why I'm saying it. So I had an issue this morning. Getting myself ready for work. Lights went out. Right? Not just in my house, in the whole entire block. This is the second time that this has happened. And so can I just be really real with you all? I feel like when I open my mouth, change has got to take place.
Okay.
So of course I called Pico.
Okay.
And of course, when I called Pico, their thing was, well, we are working on it, but the ETA of it being fixed is 11 p.m. tonight.
And when did you call?
I called this morning at around 10:30.
Wow, so they took you 12 hours, 13 hours.
And so now I'm irritated.
Okay.
So when I come in, I call again.
Okay.
And I still
You
get,
call Pico again.
yes.
Okay.
I still get the same.
Right. Oh, so hours
Response.
later you get the same.
Right.
response. Okay.
So my thought was, I'm going down to Pico.
Okay.
Because now you messing, so now my refrigerator, and I told them, I told the boys don't open it. Well, they're at a game actually, but don't open it. My freezer, because didn't realize that it was gonna cost me $100 the last time. It was gonna cost me $100 to get the freezer fixed because the door wasn't closing, because when it did it before, right? When the lights went out before, the freezer started to defrost, so that the ice melted, and then when the lights came back on,
Swelled it.
and it caused my door to not close.
Right.
And so when the guy came out, he's trying to figure it out, and so he pulls the door. He's like, you have a chunk of ice that's in the back of the freezer. That's why the door won't close, right? $100, right? Thank you, Lord, because God knows.
God knows.
He didn't even, the man said, I'm not even gonna charge you. He said, because it wasn't, wasn't a manufactured thing. He said, yes, we had to come out. He said, but don't worry about it.
Okay.
But my point
And
is,
that times 60 people per block, times how many blocks were affected by that power outage.
and you know what I want Pico to do?
Hmm.
I want Pico to give us a credit.
Okay, interesting. So here's, so,
So I
okay.
want it,
So
I
this
want
is what
it
we
done
do.
right now.
So this is what we do, and
So this is my
this is
frustration.
one of the
This,
things we could do to
this
help
was the
culturalism.
de-stressing.
Okay. This is one of the things we could do to help culturalism, right? Is educate, right?
Mm.
First phone call goes to Pico. Dr.
Mhm.
Keisha, who the second phone call should go to? Oh, okay. She's busy doing something, y'all. She said, I'm producing, I can't be on air playing with y'all. Second phone call should go to the Public Utilities Commission, the PUC. Because the
I knew that.
PUC regulates what goes on in Pico. Pico's a privately owned company run by Exelon out there in Chicago, right? Second call on behalf of the people goes to the PUC. The PUC can't get it corrected. The third phone call should go to the district representative in your city. Who is your rep? Who's your rep that sits on city council? What district do you live in? Because that's the third phone call. Hey, this is a constituent in your district. I've called Pico, I've called the PUC. I want to make you guys aware of what's going on, the lack of service, the lack of response, blah, 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 right? You don't get no response with that, call your state representative that's responsible in your district. These are people that will be able to be, to advocate for you on a national level and take solid looks at this, right? So one of the things that we have to kind of get ourselves out of as citizens, not just citizens of color, but as citizens in the country, is we have to get ourselves out of the feeling that's been asserted on us the past 2 years that we are helpless.
Mm.
We are not helpless. We
This
live in
is
a
good.
society where there are certain things, there's certain powers in place, there's certain, steps that you can take. Calling Pico 3 times is gonna get you the same answer 3 times.
Right.
Because you call the same people.
But I wasn't educated.
Right.
Now, what I did know, and it's crazy, again, I tell you this all the time, that there are some things that I know because I don't have degrees in certain areas,
Mhm.
but I know that God has illuminated certain things
Yes.
to me, right?
Yes.
But even today, God said to me, He said, there are steps to these things.
Mm-hmm.
You call Pico,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you call the PUC.
Mhm.
And here's the crazy part. This morning,
Mhm.
I said that to myself.
Right.
And then I got to work thinking that, once I call Pico again, maybe they'll have a different answer because I called you earlier.
Right.
This is a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm going to call the
There
PUC.
you go. PUC.
But the key was educating
Right.
myself.
Right.
So,
Right.
can this be can we do a takeaway 4?
You can. It's your show.
No, takeaway 4 is to
This-
change the culture
Mm-hmm.
that we need to educate ourselves. In changing the culture that we need to educate. That's why I
I
said you.
I get nervous sometimes about that, about the phrase educate yourselves.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? There's some merit to that, educate yourself, when it's taken in a place of like, go get education. You know what I mean? Make sure you get education. There's also kind of a millennial rule of thumb that educating yourself really means educating yourself. Like just bolstering your own personal feelings and your own personal.
I
And
got
I
that.
see a lot of millennials will sit in the same room, 3, 4 of them, argue a point until they come to a consensus and say, okay, this is the way it's gonna be. In a bubble that has nothing to do with and then they leave that space and they go out to the world and try something and it fails.
Right.
Because they're not educating themselves into the system to understand. True education means understanding all the aspects, understanding the parameters, understanding what the peripherals
That's the
are.
takeaway.
That's everything I take away.
True education
Dr. Keisha, how many takeaways this show?
is understanding,
You gotta get control of your show now.
understanding all aspects of what?
Of whatever it is, understanding all aspects of the situation. That's true education. I'm gonna say this, and this might be my last deep thing.
And then Dr. Al says something.
Oh, Pastor Al said, We as a people are looking for a Malcolm or Martin to lead us to the future. At the same time, a lot. Let me see if I can see it on my phone. It cut off on hers. Here we go, I got it. At the same time, a lot of leaders and people are afraid to go against the grain. All I need is a soapbox. LOL. Take that box, brother. I hear you. All right, all I need is one mic. This is what I was gonna say. Is most Christians are not strong Christians because they've not yet studied Islam and Judaism and Hinduism. And so they don't understand the value, because you can't really understand the value of what you have until you understand where it sits on a global scale.
Dr.
Most
Will?
Americans don't understand the dollar because they've never explored the value of the yen, you know what I mean, or the euro, or you know what I'm saying?
I get what you said, but let me, can I play devil's advocate?
If you like.
You don't need to be learning about no other religions. You don't.
Yeah.
Culture.
Yes, culture.
Culture
State.
dictated that.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
therefore, we don't understand what we need to understand to be able to fight the way that we need to fight.
And not even fight.
Well, when I say fight, I'm talking about
be able to
defending
change.
truth.
To be able to change.
To be able to change.
Right. To be able to change.
But
Because that's a little bit of culturalism too, right?
What, to fight?
To fight, like the concept of fighting, especially in the spiritual aspect. You know what I mean? So it's the first century, fighting was the thing. Right? Roman government, imperialism's on the rise, and rolling strong. So it was about fighting, so a lot of stuff was about fight, right? But change is not necessarily about fighting. Change is about self-reflection, and then it's about a shared experience, right? To help us change. And the reason I try to pull people down off the fight wall is because the concept of fight makes it me versus you, or makes it us versus them.
Right.
I mean, it creates division where change seeks to create inclusion. If we get to the point where we can understand there is no one to fight, there's only people to love and join and draw in. There are no people to fight. Like, we don't have to fight. That's a Christian fantasy myth, fallacy, bad teaching, right? And we teach it in the word. Like, the fight is not yours, the battle is not yours, the rest not against flesh and blood. You know what I mean? Worship is spirit and truth. Like, all this fighting and all, number one, it already happened, right? God already dealt with that. Actually, he told the archangel, take my light work. I don't have to get off the throne and do nothing. Handle that, put them out, right? And then already declared at the end of time, when it's time for me to do it, I'm going to launch the rest of the fight. Christ will get off the throne, come down, do what he need to do. So none of that fight is ours.
So are you saying to me that when we're talking, because my thought was about defending truth, right? When I said fight. So are you saying to me that even what is being said and what's being taught in Christendom, when we talk about, I'll use this fighting the good fight of faith.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So when we say that,
Good cliche.
Right. When we say that, we're not, Lord, help me get my thought. We're not saying, or are we saying that this has to be, hey, Dr. Bishaw?
Hey.
That's my sister.
I got excited when I saw her. I just really nothing.
That's my sister.
Train of thought. Go ahead,
are we saying that, what are we saying when we say we're fighting the good fight of faith? Because you just quoted scripture, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, which is the indication of fighting.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but when we quote that, and that is what people are believing, which talks about even changing our belief systems.
Right.
What are we saying to people?
Yeah.
And what should we be saying?
Yeah, so that's systemic control, it's systemic manipulation to try to get people to be pitted against one another or pitted against something, right? It creates a challenge and some
Should
kind
we
of
not
struggle.
fight it up?
No. Why would you? Number one, you fight the devil, you go lose. Period. You personally decide you're gonna fight the devil. you will lose. Okay? If you believe in spirituality, angelology, and all that stuff, and you understand that these beings were created to be, 30 feet tall and 6 wings, and the devil himself is an archangel, right? It took a host of other angels to put him out of heaven.
A host.
A host.
Right.
Right? So the concept of you are going to take on the devil is stupid. For that first reason. The second reason is, why would you? It's not your fight. It's
I hope
not
y'all
your
are getting
fight.
this, because this is
Like our victory is locked.
right.
Right?
Right.
So much to the point where he's not even trying to fight you. He's not trying to fight you. He's just trying to convince you to do what he did. And turn your back or turn your eye and walk the other way and disregard God and turn away from him and serve yourself and be self-pleasing and go after the pleasures of the eye and the pleasures of the flesh and the pride of life. That's all he wants. Because then he ain't got to do nothing to you. Because then you will put yourself in a position where you will become the enemy of God, and God will dispatch you along with the rest of his enemies when he comes back. See, the devil ain't got to, and this is theology, guys. This is in the book.
Say it, please.
I'm not making this up. This is not my own precept or my own perspective. This is in the book. There's no need for us to fight the devil. What's the word say to do to the devil? To overcome him, to cause him to flee from you. It says resist the devil.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
And he will flee. Resist. Resist ain't a fight. Resist means resist actually comes with the implication that he does not have the power to control you. He doesn't have the power to force you to do anything. All you need to do is resist it. Lie on so-and-so. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Steal that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it. I want it real bad, but I'm going to learn to say no to myself, right? Turn down my own selfish pleasures and say no to it and resist it. Got to fight the devil. I agree to disagree. Yes, good. I've been fighting all my life. Yeah. Oh, he said, but seriously. There's a difference between listen, and I wasn't gonna oh come on, populate on my phone. I wasn't going to disagree with that, Pastor Al, because there are a lot of people that are very active in what they consider to be spiritual warfare, their own personal spiritual warfare. And the metaphor utilized in the word that talks about warfare in the spirit has nothing to do with our physical struggle.
Right.
It really has nothing to do with us every day fighting. The truth is, like, you struggle, not you, Pastor Al. The rest of y'all. No, not y'all, but we know people. That's what we're supposed to say?
Yeah.
Okay. The truth is we struggle spiritually because we also don't grow spiritually. And the thing when you don't grow, you struggle more. Right?
Ooh,
if you continue when you're 16 and have the mentality of a 14-year-old, the same things that troubled you at 14 will trouble you at 16.
You struggle.
If you keep that same mentality when you're 25, or the mentality you had when you were 16, then the same things that perplexed you and troubled you and bothered you at 16 will bother you at 25. It's the same thing spiritually. If you only mature spiritually to a place of adolescence, then no matter how long you're in this life, the same things that plagued you, troubled you, challenged you, tripped you up in the adolescence of your spirituality will trip you up when you're 30 years deep.
Man.
Pastor Al said, I agree to disagree. I've been fighting all my life. LOL, but seriously, there's a difference between citizens and soldiers. Stand firm. I think I already said my piece on it. You said yours. I love you, brother.
Oh, God.
And some of it is like we get caught up and sidetracked in so much in this lifestyle that we find ourselves not tending to our actual commission. We find ourselves not tending to the actual tenets of the gospel. That we can get so bogged down, and even the joys of preaching, right? So I spent years and years preaching. And it is an absolute high to be able to stand up and deliver that word, and be able to speak with authority and speak with power, and have people listen and hear, and even make adjustments in their life that change things, right? But then I can recall how many times it was just a tinkling sound. It was just brass. It was just something nice that they wanted to hear. And because it hit their heartstring, or because it hit their emotions, they decided to make some personal changes, right? But I also think about how many times I went up and presented and didn't preach the gospel. So the changes that happen in people's lives were sometimes temporary, were sometimes ineffective to change their actual belief structure, because they were just changing whatever that one idiom or that one situation that I was talking about in that moment was, right? So I come to understand that sometimes we present so much that we lose track of the core values. The core values, because we run off talking about building a wall, right? That we don't talk about open borders and the fact that the United States was built on the concept of giving your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, right? That's etched into the side of the Statue of Liberty, of Ellis Island. It's the call of the United States of America. This is why we came into existence, to actually provide a refuge for people who are oppressed by religion, by society, by government. And because the mainstream now says, no, we gotta not do that, because we in now.
The selfishness
Is wrong. Is wrong. And I've listened to all different sides of it, and I'm aware of all different sides of it. I've educated myself on all those sides of it, and I hear what people saying. But it's wrong. It's wrong in our core values.
Yeah.
That's the standard that I'm using. That's what makes it wrong.
Core values.
It makes it wrong because our core values speak to something different. Not to get off subject, but what I've seen and experienced from waking up with scars and bruises, and even witness a demon possession church and people. You're right, we are collateral damage when it comes to this war, but some of us are directly affected. True, Pastor Al, and there's an aspect of spirituality, there's an aspect of demonology and angelology that people have to become educated on. Again, to change the culture, you need to educate people, right? So demons do not have the ability to just come in and affect you, carte blanche. There are things that we do that allow them to come in, and things we do that beckon them to come in, and things we do that open ourselves up to.
So we get access to.
Right, and not just access, but call on it. Some of the songs that we sing, the things that we allow ourselves to get into, and part of that education thing, and this is going to be way too deep to get into now, especially with the time we have. But we have to remember that music comes from God, right? The whole concept of music comes from God. And the levels of music that we get into, the stuff we play in our homes, the stuff that we sing, the things that are in our head, the things that we recite, are connected to different calls and different beckonings and different enchantments. These are things that we as a culture have lost in our African roots, because that was a big part of our African heritage and our connection to God, and understanding the impact that music has, the impact that dancing has, because a lot of the culturalized dancing that church people do in church are really connected to African ritualistic dancing that calls spirits and invites spirits to come into their body. The ritualistic aspect of losing control in church and allowing yourself to dance without inhibition, to dance and kind of release yourself to the spirit, is a culturalized and is a spiritualized aspect of the African ritual of the Yoruba tradition in Africa, where they utilize that to invite spirits into their bodies to take over and dance. That stuff's been passed down in our culture and allowed into our church, and now we do it in sheer ignorance, thinking that that's the Holy Spirit that's taking over, when it's really just a culturalized aspect of being African and being and inviting dance into the ritualistic experience of being spiritual. But those are things that we invite in. So the same dances that invited demonic forces into people's bodies 1,000 years ago, and we're doing the same dances. And look back at the dances. All you gotta do is just Google the dances, and you will see it.
Yeah, there's actually one I have on my phone, the Nene.
Mm-hmm.
There is a specific demonic spirit that uses the same type of gesturing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And songs and music and
Mhm.
chants and and we don't use chants anymore because like that's an old a German thing. But our songs are chants. The hooks to songs, the choruses to songs. It's important that we be aware and educated on what we do and what we invite in. So I'm not saying that spirituality is and that demonology is not a threat, bro. And I'm not saying that it's not real. I'm saying if we walk in truth and we teach truth and we share truth, then we understand we put ourselves in a place that's not
Right.
in that level of jeopardy. And if we invite things in, be it in ignorance or not, then you can put yourself in very real harm.
Dr. Cindy Trim said something, and we're going to go because this time, Dr.
Yeah.
Cindy Trim said, she said this was years ago. She said, I don't worry about when I go to places about the territory in terms of demonic attacks. She said, because I have power over that. I don't subject myself to anything
Right.
that will even make them think that they can come and I think she used the word attack.
Mm-hmm.
But she said, no, I go into regions, and when I walk into places,
Right.
no, you gotta cease
Right.
from doing whatever it is that you're doing.
And yes, we're out of time.
Right.
I'm out of time. Y'all can keep going, but I'm
No,
out of time.
I'm out of
I
time.
love y'all. I gotta run.
All right, say peace to them.
Peace, y'all. Peace. Love y'all.
Well, guys, thank you for Dr. Wills got.
No, we're good. Just knock the mic.
Dr. Will has got to get to work. I thank you guys. Today on our takeaway Tuesday, we talked about values, core values, and dealing with certain things. You guys got all the takeaways. I'm going to run through them real quick. Takeaway number 1 was leadership's responsibility is to align culture with values. Number 2 was leaders define culture by asserting, which is being intentional, or the vacuum, which is doing nothing. We got all of these. Our manager put them up. Takeaway number 3 was to change the culture. You must be accountable to change. You must be accountable to the values. And then 4 was true education is understanding all aspects of any situation. So we had some good stuff today. My prayer is that this stuff empowered you, because that's what we are about on that's what Speak Life International Ministries is about. But so is as we do every day live at 5, we want to encourage, empower, and ignite you to change. So that's what we do. So thank you guys for joining me on the gram. Thank you, Facebook Live, where it all started. And now on YouTube, I am grateful to you all. Thank you so very much. God bless you. Have a good night. Peace.